Today, we're installing this luxury smart toilet / bidet on Modern Builds. Step 1 is taking out the old toilet. After you turn the water off, make sure to flush what you've got in the tank. After you let the tank drain, just remove the 2 nuts holding it down to the toilet flange.
And whenever you lift your toilet, do your best to lift with your legs, not your back. After that, come back with a cloth or rag to plug up your toilet flange and block the smell.
The instructions for my toilet say that the drain needs to be centered 12 inches off the back wall. And for the electrical plug, I'm gonna go about 16 inches off the ground between the toilet and the vanity. The only problem with that is that my only power is right here. So I'm going to show you how to run this across the wall and down so that you can do the same in your bathroom.
To start, I removed the old outlet cover and then unscrewed everything so that I could pull out the outlet and switch.
So this right here is a GFCI outlet, meaning if there's a short in the wire, it trips a breaker here rather than at your panel. Inside, the black wires, which are hot, connect to the golden screws, and the white wire, which is neutral, feeds the silver screw. And we're not doing anything with this switch or wiring. If I connect my multimeter, you can see that we've got power, but we're not going to be altering any of this wiring. Instead, we're just going to be removing this sticker that gives us access to additional connectors that are made to connect and chain more outlets to.
Before going any further, I went to the breaker panel and turned off the bathroom power. Then I used a level to mark what I want to cut away from the drywall.
To cut this, I'm going to use my multi-tool with a drywall blade, but really any wood or metal blade will work.
Whenever you do this, make sure you don't plunge too far past the back of your drywall because you never know what might be behind it, especially in a bathroom. On this vanity wall, I had the vent for the sink drain right behind the drywall.
This is the outlet box that I'm using, and it's called an old work box, as opposed to a new work box. It's got these flaps on the back that when you tighten this screw, squeeze around the back of the drywall, clamping it in place. A new work box would screw directly into a stud, but we don't have access to that.
I switched over to a plunge cutting blade in my multi-tool to make this cutout. That way I would get clean corners.
Oh man.
And now's the time to double check your box can sit in there level.
That fits great. Now I should go ahead and address right here where I started cutting into the drywall vertically with my multi-tool. That was a mistake. Don't do what I did. I'll easily be able to feed my wires across and down without removing this, but luckily it's sturdy enough that it shouldn't be a problem. I'll still add a little bit of blocking just to make sure this is strong after it's taped and mudded.
I also added blocking where I'll be putting the new outlet. I just made sure that these were out of the way of the flaps on the box that attach to the drywall.
And now it's time to drill into our studs to feed the wire through. You can either use something like a 1/2 inch bit here or a spade bit up to like 1 inch.
When you're able to, these holes should be at least 1.25 inches behind the front edge of the stud. That way drywall screws can't hit your new wires.
I've got a 28 breaker, so I'm using 12-2 Romex, meaning it's 12 gauge, and it's got 1 hot and 1 neutral wire into ground. My spool is down here in the floor, and I'm going to be feeding up through where our new box is going. Got it. And now I'm going to pull all the slack I'll need to get myself to the box. After that, I'm going to go behind this vent pipe and through the next stud, and then I'll pull all of my slack. If I try and do the whole thing at once, it'll be too difficult. And a lot of times it helps to put a bend on the end of your Romex to help it get through the corner. And this gives us plenty that we've got a good lead coming out of the box.
I used a sharp utility knife to carefully remove the rubber shielding around the wire.
I'll trim these back just a touch and then strip the ends. Now I'm going to take this sticker off the back of our GFCI outlet, and it's what our new wire will connect to. Remember, the black wire goes to the gold screw and the white wire goes to the silver screw.
I used a short piece of ground wire to connect all my grounds with the wire nut. Then I screwed it into the green connector on my outlet. I folded and tucked the extra wire as neatly as I could into the box and then screwed everything in.
Awesome. Now let's put in the new plug. I'll start by just cutting off the Romex where we've got about 1 foot lead, and then I'll feed it through the tab in the box.
When we tighten the screws on this box, these flaps, one at the top and the bottom, clamp around the back of the drywall, holding everything in place.
And now I'll cut away the shielding on this Romex to expose the wire for our new outlet.
I trimmed off a little bit more of my lead before stripping the ends of my wires.
The outlet I'm using is a 20 amp GFCI. You should use one of these anytime you're around water. And even though I've got a GFCI outlet at the beginning of this run, which would technically protect the new outlet, I still like the idea of putting one next to the tub and toilet in case that one ever goes bad. By installing this GFCI, the new outlet will always be protected.
This couldn't be more simple to wire up. Black goes to gold, white wire goes to the silver connector, and your ground always goes to green.
Now I can fold these wires just a little bit to help everything store and screw our outlet in. And now, for the moment of truth, let's test this out. I'll flip the breaker on, and I'm hoping for a green light on our new outlet. Oh wait, this one doesn't have a light. There's the light. I was worried at first. That's encouraging, but let's plug something in. It works. Let's go. And now it's time to move on to our next big step, drywall repair. But I promise, I'll still make it quick.
Cutting drywall with a utility knife is my favorite way because it doesn't create much dust. After scoring one side, just flip your panel over and then you can break off and score the other paper face. The 1/2-inch drywall that I'm using is mold resistant, and that's why it's this green color. Before screwing this in, I added a little bit of blocking onto the end of my long drywall repair. That way it's got something to screw into like a stud. I also made sure to remember where my wires and vent pipe were. That way I didn't accidentally hit them with any of my drywall screws. And try not to recess your screws too far to where they break the paper face of the drywall.
And next it's time to tape and mud this repair. I'm just using standard joint compound.
This is leftover from the drywall repairs on my shower install. I added a little bit of water before stirring this to make it more workable and then applied a thick coat onto the long drywall patch with my putty knife.
Now that we've flooded those joints to make sure that they're filled, we'll apply the paper tape. I'll extend it about an inch or so past the repair here and cut it.
Then use the putty knife to squeegee out the excess compound.
I'll do a final last pass to make sure I've got really good contact, and then I'll repeat that process on the bottom seam of our repair. I'll flood the surface to make sure I've got plenty of joint compound, and then I'll apply my tape. Hiya. And I am using medium pressure. I want to make sure that I don't have too much joint compound behind my tape, because then it could bubble up. And on the other hand, if there's not enough joint compound, it'll bubble up as well. That looks great.
Working the other direction to the corner is a little bit difficult. It helps to stop your tape about a 1/2 inch from the corner. Here, I'm just doing a light top coat on top of our tape, helping feather this repair out. Then I moved over to the other wall where I'm working around this electrical box. I still added the tape so that it was centered on the repair, but after it was bedded, I used my utility knife to trim the paper around the electrical box. At this point, I should mention, we're not looking for an A+ finish here. If you've got trowel marks in your joint compound, that's no problem. We'll backfill and fix that with coat 2. I applied my corner and vertical tape after all of my horizontal repairs, and I did my best to feather the joint compound with the existing drywall to help blend this repair. And hopefully you won't be doing what I am in this shot, fixing where I cut into the drywall unintentionally. Once this cures, it should be sturdy and not crack.
And I probably already said it in voiceover, but we're not looking for an A+ finish. This is our build coat. Tomorrow, I'm gonna come back and sand this smooth.
I love sanding nets for drywall instead of sandpaper, and I'm using 150 grit. It works pretty quick, but still gives a smooth finish. I used a wider 10-inch drywall knife to apply the second coat. This just gives me a wider reference surface and helps me establish flat more easily. And I'll be sure to leave links to the tools and supplies I used below.
And this is where we're gonna stop drywall for this episode. I'm gonna be skim coating this entire bathroom, but if all I had was this repair, I would probably do a 3rd coat and then paint or texture. Next step, plumbing. But first, I want to give a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's episode, your one stop to build your own website or online store. And now with Squarespace's design intelligence and blueprint AI, that has never been easier. All you've got to do is tell Squarespace a little bit about your brand and the website you want to create, and then you get a custom designer template suited to you. And Squarespace sites have tons of cool features like SEO integration. They do all the complicated back-end work to make sure you show up more often on search results. And
And with Squarespace invoices, you can get paid faster and impress your clients with on-brand invoices. And streamline your workflow from proposals, contracts, invoices, and seamless online payments all in one place. And with Squarespace email campaigns, you've got all the tools you need to engage your clients, promote your services, and build your business built in. So to learn more, make sure and follow my link down in the description. That's squarespace.com/modernbuilds, where you can build out your entire site before entering any of your credit card info. And then when it's time for your site to go live, don't forget to use my code MODERNBUILDS for 10% off your first site, store, or domain through Squarespace. As always, huge thanks to Squarespace. Now let's get back to this toilet install. My first step in installing this smart toilet was turning the water main off at the road. You only need to do this if you're installing a new valve like me. Now let's unbox the toilet. I'm excited. And the smart toilet / bidet that I'm using is from a hilariously named brand, Uncle Brown. Let's open it up. They were nice enough to send this to me for free and provide a discount code. Link in info is below.
It's beautiful. It looks so modern, honestly.
This model by Uncle Brown is called the ST12.
They left some goodies behind in the bowl. Step 1 is replacing the old toilet valve with this new one that has 2 outlets that'll feed the 2 hoses on the toilet bidet.
My house is pretty old. It's from 1958 and it's got this 1/2-inch copper compression valve. After cleaning up the water that was still in the line, I came back with my new 1/2-inch MPT valve and I realized this isn't gonna fit. So I quickly reinstalled the old valve and then I used this adapter that came with my Uncle Brown toilet so that I could connect my 2 outlet valve on top. This totally ended up working as a temporary solution. Inside the box, we've also got a wax ring, and this is what seals the bottom of the toilet. Just center this on here, give it a good push, and it should hang on there for installation. This is what squishes down to create our seal on the flange. We've also got these interesting mounting brackets that the toilet uses to screw in from on the side. The bolts insert into the 2 sides of the flange like any other toilet, but then you attach your mounting bracket and connect them to the bolts by using a washer and a nut on each one. This allows for a more contemporary toilet design with no visible hardware.
Almost forgot to take that out of the drain. Nice save.
It was a little tricky finding the center of the drain, but I got it in place.
It fits.
The toilet did block one of the outlets of my valve, so I moved the toilet. That way I could twist the whole assembly so that my hoses will be able to connect to both outlets. And double check the other ends of these hoses are tight as well.
And here is the plug for our toilet. That feels strange to say. This right here is the backup battery pack.
This ensures that your toilet still powers on and flushes whenever the power goes out. Aligning the toilet to the drain the second time was quite a bit easier, and here you can see the screws attaching the toilet to the mounting brackets. I'd recommend applying downward force or having someone sit on the toilet while you do this. And now we can turn the water back on. I sure hope we don't have any leaks. Fingers crossed. Let's power up our toilet? Yeah, that's the right thing to say. Okay, let's go.
So now water turned on, and after that, we plug it in. Whoa, it lit up. Check this out. Whoa, the water's a little dirty, but it just opened itself. Apparently if I sit down and then stand up, it auto flushes. What? And this right here is the wireless remote that controls all of the smart functions. You've got flush. Wow, that's almost like a commercial toilet where it's got like power suck. I know you know what I'm talking about. After that, if you want to wash your rear end, you click that button. There's probably tape on this. Nope, no tape. Whoa! Oh my gosh.
You're not supposed to get that close, are you? Do they know what they're doing?
When you approach the toilet, the lid already comes up, and with a touch of your foot, the seat raises so that you can pee standing up, and then when you're done with your business, just tap it again, and the seat goes down, so does the lid, and it flushes. The seat also automatically raises if you plan on sitting down, and there's a sensor in the seat that knows you're there, so that when you walk away, the lid closes and flushes automatically. The sensor is located right here. When you sit down, the toilet does a pre-wet so that nothing sticks to the bowl, and the seat is heated, and so are all the water functions. There's a front and back bidet option, and all of the water is UV sterilized. This whole system is self-cleaning, plus there's a built-in dryer and deodorizer.
It's warm.
And if your water or power ever goes out, don't worry, there's still a manual flush with a water reserve tank and a battery backup. Check out the link, the code is 10OFF-ST12.
I'll mount this onto the wall eventually, but as you can tell, I still got a lot of drywall work to do, and I'm thinking about upgrading the valve behind the toilet so that I don't have a valve on top of a valve. But if you want to see that, make sure and check out the full bathroom renovation video that I'll be coming out with soon. Make sure and like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Modern Builds. And now, I'm gonna try the bidet.
I have never used one before.
Here we go. Oh my God! What the heck? Ah! The water's warm. Okay, I'm stopping it. I'm clicking stop. Oh God. That seems like a bit much.